change is constant. In our ever-evolving world, the challenges faced by law enforcement demand innovative solutions and unwavering leadership. For over 3 decades, Frank Fernandez has led the way, transforming critical incidents into catalysts for reform. Frank's journey began on the streets with the Miami Police Department, where he learned firsthand the lessons of adapting to tragedy. His leadership in specialized projects continued with groundbreaking work on Miami PD's aviation detail, showcasing innovative city resource management. As a key member of the IACP Incident Command Working Group, he helped craft policy guidance that reshaped tactical responses nationwide. His expertise has not only informed critical incident reviews, like the active shooter at Robb Elementary School, but also steered discussions on tactical decision-making following the tragedies in Uvalde, Texas.
And it's that moment in time where bold leadership needs to kick in to say, it's your job. You took an oath of office. You swore to uphold the Constitution. Their number one job is not to catch burglars and robbers or traffic violators. Their number one job is to protect the constitutional rights of all of our citizens. In this particular case, those kids were begging for peace and tranquility. And those officers, unfortunately, did not enter that classroom to uphold the oath of office that they all took, including the chief of police. What should be done is to make sure that officers have the equipment, then the training, right? And then the focus, a mission focus is really important, what to do, and then the leadership to support that. As a chief of police, as a assistant city manager, the job of that manager, of that chief of police, is to provide the tools necessary for an officer to be successful. The ultimate goal is that that officer gets home every day, delivers proper service without violating someone's constitutional rights, and is able to complete a career. About 30% of officers make it through a whole career in any given department. The rest fall out. Why do they fall out? They get discouraged, they seek different jobs, they get sick, they get injured. Very few die from gunshot wounds. It's the internal pressures that they face. But having said all that, a chief of police has to be devoted to doing whatever it takes to get that training, the resources, the capability for those officers to exist and provide services every single day. That's their purpose. The purpose of that leadership is to go and support your men and women that are out there every day. That's the backbone of the police department, is those men and women that answer those calls for service, that are out there chasing bad guys. It's not the administrative part of it, right? You sit in an office, you sign paperwork, you do critical reviews. You do all that in support of those officers. So you have to find the funding. It's not an excuse. Recruitment and selection. Be very selective in who you bring in as a police officer, because you're going to ruin a bunch if you bring in the wrong person.
Sure. One
bad apple ruins a bunch. Now, I've seen it in my career. One bad officer took down a lot of good officers that went to prison. One. Yeah. So backgrounds are important to make sure that those gatekeepers that are allowing people to become police officers, that gate only opens for the very, very best. We're always going to be facing disappointments, but we have to try our very, very best to not lower standards, but increase standards, increase pay for officers, give them the best training possible. And I'll tell you, from an assistant city manager position, chief of police, Department of Justice, as a subject matter expert, I would say that it's not unachievable. It's completely achievable. The tax base, all those to me are excuses, but it can be done. I've negotiated contracts in multiple cities to make sure officers get properly compensated. And it's never an issue of the tax base. It's an issue of city government putting their priorities in the right place.
Today on Bets and Badges, we're going to talk about leadership. What makes a good leader? What is exceptional leadership? What are the traits that these individuals are made up with or made up by? I am Robert Asencio. Today on Bets and Badges, we have the honor and privilege of introducing a friend, a colleague, a person who has worked their way up from the very bottom of law enforcement all the way up to the top executive job and beyond in city government. We have the honor of introducing to you Frank Fernandez. Chief Fernandez, how are you, sir?
Good. Thank you very much, Robert, for having me on your show today.
Oh, man, it's great to have you. So Chief, let's tell the audience a little bit about you.
My trajectory in terms of what you just mentioned, honored to have been part of the Miami Police Department. That's where my upbringing started. Rose through the ranks, deputy chief. I worked with John Timoney. Chief John Timoney was a great, great mentor.
May you rest in peace, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Considered one of the best chiefs in the country.
Yeah, Chief Timoney sent me throughout really basically different parts of the world. I went to Brazil. I went to Australia. I attended the police academy in Australia. I was there for almost a month. Then I went to Northern Ireland, where I spent some time there with the Northern Ireland Police Department, training with them with the Border Patrol. Outstanding opportunities. And then he sent me to Israel, where I spent a long time there in Israel, operating during a very, very significant time period of this disorder in Israel. But to go back, I had the opportunity to retire from the City of Miami Police Department. I'm still there. I'm a reserve officer. I fly in the aviation unit as a tactical flight officer. So I still get to see police work front and center all the time. And it helps me in my career today with the Department of Justice. But when I retired, I went to Hollywood. And yes, you're right. I did become the chief of police. I started off there, and I was also the assistant city manager. I was not the city manager, but the assistant city manager.
Stand corrected.
And then I went on to Coral Gables. I was recruited to go there by the city manager. I spent just about 4 years in Coral Gables as the assistant city manager and director of public safety in a sworn position, where I oversaw 7 departments, including police and fire. Now, concurrently, I've had the opportunity, going back to Miami, Hollywood, and Coral Gables, to have been working with the Department of Justice for the last 18 years. And so there I've done Civil Rights Division reform work with them, and I've investigated now 7 departments across the country.
Now you're doing some consent decree work, right? Doing some investigation, some evaluation of agencies, and hopefully setting them on the right track, right? And one of them was Uvalde.
I do. I've come in with the Civil Rights Division, also with the COPS office in Uvalde, as you mentioned, a terrible tragedy in Uvalde, Texas, just about an hour and a half southwest of San Antonio, Texas. Small little town. It's a border town. Elementary school, Robb Elementary, 19 little kids, 2 teachers died. We came in at the request of the Attorney General. They flew us to D.C. They briefed us, asked us to be part of this investigation, or the reassessment of what happened in that particular incident. Long story short, 77 minutes were spent trying to get that bad guy out of that classroom. In the meantime, these kids perished at the hands of this bad individual.
That sucks. As the kids were being injured and victimized or killed, police are outside. I want to get into your police work because I want to talk about what makes you a leader in a minute, but phenomenal work, brother. Phenomenal. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
Very proud of your career.
Likewise.
So, what are you doing now?
So I run a company. It's Blueprints for Safety. It's it's branched off into 3 different sections. One, we do litigation work for attorneys. We do also administrative investigations for cities. So somewhat like an internal affairs for an administrative function of a city manager. We do that. We also do leadership work. So we provide leadership coaching to individuals, in particular police officers and police staff and chiefs, have leadership certified coaches within our team that are great people that can really provide a lot of incentive to understanding different dynamics of police work.
Okay, so let's get into it, man. So, the last time I was having a conversation with you yesterday over the phone, preparation for this episode, and I shared with you the last time we actually worked was, I believe, in the 90s together. That is, you were the NRO neighborhood resource officer in what's the city of Miami area called Kinloch area. Everybody, there was new one. What was interesting to me was there weren't very many people in that community who did not know Frank Fernandez, and they called you Frankie, which was really interesting because you had street people, not civilians, calling you Frankie. It was a term of respect and friendship. And then you had an incident where a male was coming at you with a knife, and you had to take action, lethal action, but you did not let that episode stop you. You went on to patrol, ran up the ranks, you ran up SWAT. Let's talk about your experiences, man. So you've seen the worst, and you've been able to provide the best.
Yeah, it's luck. It's trusting the process and following through your own commitment, your own discipline. But you asked earlier, are leaders made or are leaders born? And they come in both fashions, right? Some people just naturally have the ability to lead. They have the charisma, the foresight, the wisdom to be able to do that. Others learn along the way. I like to say that I'm a combination of both of those. I've been very fortunate to have people in my life, in my family life, that have supported me throughout this whole adventure in police work. But also when I came to the Miami Police Department, had a lot of veterans, as you represent today, that supported the long vision of helping someone along the path. And I believe that's what it's best about policing, that officers should always look, as you go along that path, how do I help someone along that path as well? So you reach up for help and you reach down to pull somebody else up with you. And that's what happened to me. I believe that you trust the process, but you verify. And when I say trust and verify, that means go and look and see, making sure that you're on the right path, the department's giving you the right training. And if they're not, go seek it, go find it. There's so many opportunities for officers to develop themselves throughout their career. Oftentimes, they sit idle. They'll wait for somebody to push them, to force them to go to training, to force them to develop their own skills. But that's the path to success. That's the path to leadership, self-development. It's not the department forcing you to develop yourself, but it's you having the internal discipline, wanting to develop yourself, and then trusting the process, verifying it through other sources. And today with technology, it's so easy to find so many resources. For example, the COPS office that I work with has a laundry list of opportunities for police departments by way of grants, but also for individual officers to get training, to understand what are the best practices. But it's continuous learning. It's a process that I would often write on my wall at my police department. It's Kaizen. I'm not sure if you've heard of it before, but Kaizen is a process of continuous improvement. So if you as a police officer want to be a good leader, you really have to subscribe to a continuous improvement. And that goes by way of your physical aspect of it, your mental health and wellness, but also your knowledgeable baseline. Now, how do you develop all those three is continuous application, assessment, trusting and verifying the process, and going along with it.
So let's flip it a little bit. You, as a executive officer of an agency, for those officers that would be out there, those people that were line personnel, or maybe those that are in mid-level ranks that want to succeed, want to rise up to the ranks, what do you look for in a person?
Yeah, I'm looking for self-discipline primarily. If someone has the internal self-discipline to guide themselves, to look and seek the best opportunities, to have the eagerness and the drive to succeed, those are frameworks and fundamentals that you can't teach. Everything else you could teach someone. You can teach them how to shoot, how to write a report, how to investigate a case. Those are all simple tasks that are easily trained. What's difficult is to change character. It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to change someone's character. There was a study done a while back by professors that indicated that from birth to the age of 7, that child develops its own character. And after 7 years of age, it's hard to change that character, extremely difficult. It's part of the parental upbringing of your child, and how do you gear them and coach them and guide them and love them to the point that by age 7, they have developed a self-discipline and awareness. But I'll give you an example. You see those kids that are disruptive, at a toy store, and they're 10 years old and 12 years old, and you say, how does that happen? Those individuals are the ones that are very, very difficult to change throughout life. And you're probably going to see them at age 20, at age 30, and at age 40, probably showcasing some of those similar actions that you saw when they were 12 years old. They come out. Mm-hmm. And so what I look primarily as a leader in people to rise them up the ranks is, number one, is that character. Do they have the self-discipline, the need and the drive to succeed?
So there's, you have to feed your mind, feed your body. But what about what makes you, the energy that drives you? And that's where sometimes I think there's a major disconnect.
Yeah, I think to become a police officer is extremely difficult. They go through a battery of tests, as you know,
100%.
to get through that. So, they've already succeeded a significant amount in their life once they get through that door to become a police officer. The background checks, the medical, the psychologicals, all the inherent tests that they have to go through. And then they have to go to the police academy, and they're put to a physical test, knowledgeable test. It's just practical examinations. So by the time they graduate, they've really succeeded. So I believe that everyone has an opportunity to lead, to be the best versions of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
What happens along that path in police work, once they get out of the academy, it's up to the police department. And oftentimes, police departments fail. It's not that the individual fails. I think they get to that point where they succeeded and passed the police academy. Now we build them from there. But what happens, unfortunately, is that the departments start to decline. And instead of rising those individuals up, they go down. Now, who rises up? Typically are those that have self-discipline. The ones that didn't have self-discipline when they came into the police academy and were driven through the group, right? The group mindset that kind of drove them through the academy, they start to decline. Those are the ones that may not achieve their fullest potential. But I believe that every officer, having gone through a battery of tests and applications, that they have the potential of achieving the best versions of themselves to the point of becoming a leader, to the point of becoming an exceptional leader. They can do it. It can be learned so long as you have the drive, the self-discipline, and the want to become an exceptional leader.
It probably starts with the agency standards, because the agency has standards that are a high bar, and you're going to have high bar employees, right? But if the agency has low standards, then you're going to have low bar employees, and that's when we run into all these problems. Is that what you find with your work with the U.S. Department of Justice?
My perspective, thankfully has evolved over time. While I was, leading the Miami Police Department in Hollywood and Coral Gables, I concurrently work with the Department of Justice, and as I mentioned earlier, this is my 8th police department in the last 15 years that I've been doing this. So I get to see from the inside what causes a police officer to go the wrong way, what creates a department that violates citizen civil rights. And through that evolution of 15 years in 8 different departments, what I've seen is that officers, again, have the potential of achieving excellence, but the departments don't allow them to. Why? Because they don't maintain a standard. You get out of the police academy, and instead of rising up or raising that standard every year, their performance should be increasing. They allow that standard to drop. Today, it's probably even more exacerbated because departments are having trouble recruiting individuals to become police officers. Yeah. So rather than thinking, why don't we just get the elite, pay them better, make them elite police officers, invest more money into their training and development, having less police officers but better qualified police officers, civilianizing a lot of the work that can be done by true professional civilians, and then reincorporating that extra money that's available by not having so many officers into developing the core of the department, which is police out there in the field. Unfortunately, they don't do that.
Yeah.
What ends up happening, it's a system that evolves on its own. And the system is geared to lower standards or not to hold officers accountable. And so when I've gone in with the Department of Justice, accountability always comes to the top of the list. The department not holding officers accountable, not doing good reviews of critical incidents. And accountability doesn't always mean a reprimand, doesn't mean discipline, doesn't mean termination or demotion. Accountability can mean retraining, refocusing, assigning a coach. I believe in coaching. I believe that departments should have sergeants and lieutenants that are specialized in coaching. Mentors. But I like the word coaching because, I'm a big fan of baseball. My son plays college ball. And, we go to a specialty coach for hitting, a specialty coach for pitching. There's a specialist coach for catches. There's a fielding coach. There's specialists. Mm-hmm. And why do professional baseball players go to a hitting coach? Every one of them has a hitting coach that's there with them. Aaron Judge, for example, has a professional hitting coach. Yet that guy is amazing what he does. But why does he have? If he's so good, why does he still have a coach? Because that's the person that's going to refine, refocus, polish your skills. In police work, we don't have that. We have a sergeant that's assigned to supervising police officers And that's part of the equation. But the other part of the equation is developing that police officer, looking at their needs and wants, and developing on that in their areas that they need strengthening. And I would say that when you look at a police officer, always look at what's the next step. Where are they developing themselves? Are they stagnant in their position? Oftentimes, what I've seen in all of my investigations in these police departments is stagnation. Stagnation in leadership, complacency, lack of accountability. When a critical incident comes up, it's difficult to review it. Yeah. I did it hundreds of times at the Miami Police Department. A chase, a pursuit, a shooting. You've got to put that critical eye on it.
And Lord knows we had plenty in the 90s and 2000s. Early 2000s.
I've reviewed hundreds of these things, if not over 1,000. I've lost count. Yeah. But the department struggle with holding officers accountable. Speaking clearly, transparently on what happened in that incident. Because like I said, it's not about termination, demotion, but it's about development more so than that. How do we take that incident, learn from it, develop our training around it so that our officers are better equipped to handle that situation should it come up again? The reality of police work is that every single day that police officers go out throughout our country, 800,000 police officers go out every day. That's a workforce across the country. Every single day, they only respond to trouble. Nobody calls the police to say, hey, I want to come say hello to you. They're responding to a call when there's trouble. And when they're patrolling, what are they looking for? The expectations from the community is that an officer is hands-on looking for trouble. Trouble being defining as a criminal, an unlawful act, a traffic violation, but all of those end up in a negative outcome. So if a police officer that has a very difficult task every single day to accomplish is always looking for trouble, shouldn't we always be addressing that trouble in the best way to equip that officer with the right mindset, skill set, hard set, with the ability to navigate through very, very challenging situations? You talk about shootings. Yeah. Pulling the trigger to discharge a firearm at an individual is not difficult. It's not. In some cases, it takes 5 pounds of pressure. In some agencies, it takes 3 pounds of pressure. A kid can pull that trigger. Where it takes an enormous amount of courage and skill and development is to strategically place yourself in a position where you don't have to pull the trigger, where you can de-escalate. You can tactically outmaneuver the individual. And how do you get to that point? Through critical assessments of bad situations where officers go to.
So we know that trauma, compounded trauma, is part of the job. How do you see the space? Because it seems it's evolving, and I'm glad law enforcement is more open to breaking the stigma, talking about wellness, talking about mental health. Leaders are now subscribing to, hey man, maybe we need to address a person's well-being more than when we were coming up, because back then it was, don't talk about it, just get out there and do the job, suck it up. How do you see this evolving area of treating the officers better, making sure, I know you said you take care of the officer, but I want to go more in deep to how do you take care of them when you know they're experiencing things that are not natural to them, that are hurting them, that can impact them?
To me, it's all about that sergeant, right? That supervisor.
First line supervision.
Front line supervisor there that, they took an oath to become a supervisor, become a sergeant in the police department. That requires them to know your officers. To lead by example. That person has to look good in their uniform so that they reflect what they want out of their officers. They have to be at the highest level of training, so that standard has to be much higher than a police officer. They have to be able to go to training and perform at a higher level so that officers look up to those sergeants. Oftentimes, as you know, that doesn't happen, right? The sergeant, because he's a sergeant, may seek the path of least resistance, but they've got to lead by example, and they have to know their officers and know when there's something wrong with that officer, know when to read them. For example, when they get to work, I like the assessment model of when officers get to work that is similar to flying. So as a pilot, when you get to the aircraft, there's a thing called CRM, which is crew resource management. That means that everyone in that in that cockpit has the ability to speak up. But we have to look at each other and see, are we well to fly? Yeah. Do you look good? Do you not? Ask questions. Pilot, how do you feel today? Oh, I'm not feeling too well. Maybe we shouldn't fly today. I'm a little under the weather. Maybe we shouldn't fly today. Or maybe he's disturbed and he shows signs of distress. And you ask him, and that day you don't fly. Same thing holds true with a sergeant, with a police officer. Go to roll call, look at your officers. Are they ready to perform that duty? If they look distressed, well, maybe that's that one day you give them a day off, or you send them over to the front desk at an administrative position, put somebody else out in the field. Maybe you take that position for a day. Give them that guy, that person, that woman, the opportunity to recompose themselves. Because they're going to go to work. They're going to go work in days where they're not up to their very, very best. That sergeant needs to diagnose that. And that takes leadership. That takes an understanding of how to understand your people, the ones that work for you, that work with you, and providing that leadership opportunity to know when to step in. You don't have to be a father figure or a mother figure. What you have to be is a good coach, coaching them throughout life. Not a life coach, but a professional coach throughout that life of policing. And if we did that in police departments, I truly believe that we would see a much higher success rate in police officers retiring, and a much higher success rate in every single encounter when they respond to trouble.
For those officers that are either stuck in that plateau, leaders, mid-level managers, or even managers that are stuck in that plateau, from your perspective, what should they do? Give them a 101, if you will, or a reminder on what it's going to take for them to become exceptional leaders.
Yeah, I'd say number one, find yourself a coach, a good leadership coach outside of the department that can give you guidance. An example would be you could hire them. We provide that service. But you could also go to another department. But find someone that you see good qualities in, that you want to mimic those qualities, right? Find people that have been successful. Now, I did that. I was fortunate. I had 5 mentors in 5 different departments across the country that would often come and say, how you doing? What's going on? What's happening? And when I got into situations that were critical, I would call them and say, hey, I'm facing with this situation here. What do you recommend? So I'd say to an officer, find yourself that coach. Some may call it a mentor, but find someone outside of the department that's going to give you an external perspective. And when you're not motivated, find that motivation through that coach, find it through friendship outside of the department, and go and seek out all the resources that are available in the police department. Go to the training and say, what's available? What can I do today to increase my skill level? Ask powerful questions and get powerful answers. But if you don't ask powerful questions, you're going to get weak answers. And if I was a city manager and I'm hiring a police chief, this is what I'd be looking for. Someone who's willing every single day to give up their job for the greater good.
That's deep, man. Not a lot of people willing to do that.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So, Chief Fernandez, we've been speaking with Frank Fernandez, former Deputy Chief of the City of Miami Police Department, former Chief of the City of Hollywood and Coral Gables, former Assistant City Manager for the City of Hollywood. Can't thank you enough. Professor, CEO of Blueprint for Safety. Look him up. You'll be very impressed by his background. Very accessible. But listen, we've been trying to provide to you a view, an inside's perspective from a leader, a person who's risen through the ranks, a person who's walked the walk, talked the talk, but a person who knows his stuff on leadership. We hope this episode has been able to provide you a little bit of insight as to what leaders or how leaders are made, how they're looked at, and how other leaders, what they're looking for from just that leaders. I am Robert Asencio. In our background, we have the producer, Alex Sukas. Can't thank you enough to the Millers, Michael and Grant Miller. Thank you to the Miami's Community News team and you, the public. You can find us on most podcast platforms, at least the major ones, under Bets and Badges, or on our website at Bets and Badges, www.betsandbadges.com, or here at the Miami's Community News. Look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.